was it worth it? Business school. I think the opportunity cost, it's something that you and I have talked about before, and something that was like a very big weight on our shoulders.
Yeah.
We were leaving a job that we loved for the most part, people that we enjoyed working with, to go not only not make money, but spend a lot of money on tuition for 2 years. Is it worth it?
Yeah. So I feel like this is a very common conversation, both before people are, whether they're deciding to apply or deciding to go to business school and coming out of business school, of, okay, how can we attach some sort of number to it to be able to say, yeah, the opportunity cost and the tuition, like, yes, it was worth it for these reasons. And I feel we will never know. Like, I will never know whether this was like the right decision, quote unquote, right decision, or quote unquote, wrong decision. It is the decision that I made. And I think it is kind of doing a disservice to that decision to try and understand, was it right or was it wrong? I am happy at, like, looking at this point in time, I am so happy that I went. Yes, it was expensive. Yes, I have some probably short-term career setbacks in the sense that I haven't been in the workforce for 2 years, and I'm going into jobs that maybe I could have gotten when I went into business school. But I do think there is a lot of long-term benefit to it in terms of the people you meet, your exposure to different opportunities. And so, sure, I could sit down for a long time and try and figure out, like, okay, was it right? Was it worth it? Was it right? Was it wrong? I'm not going to do that because I want it, like, I just want to feel certainty in my decision.
Yeah.
And I think it's also different for everybody. So the way that I will answer that question is not to say, yes, it was worth it, or no, it was not worth it. Just, I'm really happy that I went.
The life experience.
Yeah. And that's that.
Period.
Probably not the answer that I feel like is helpful, but I just had so many people when I was trying to decide if I wanted to go to business school, I think especially in tech, say, oh, you're making the wrong decision. You definitely shouldn't go to business school. You were a product manager before. You want to stay a product manager after. What's the purpose of business school? Why are you doing that? And I think that was really hard for me to still dig, like, kind of felt like I had to dig my heels in almost a little bit more to say, no, I'm going. And I'm happy with that. And we will never know if it was worth it or not.
Yeah. I think 2 thoughts on that. Like, one, like, I think we're just a few months out from when you graduated. So I think with more time, there might be more information gathered. Like, in 10 years, you will probably have a very different answer. And probably the answer is yes, it was worth it, right?
Yeah.
Or more definitive answer there. And the second thought is that, like, I think in tech especially, there is so much friction with how people perceive business school and how they perceive people who come out of business school programs. Which is very different from, like, consulting or banking, finance, where more of the execs have a formal business school training. So I think it's a little bit more stigmatized in the tech industry, where you have, like, 18-year-old founder raising $3 million doesn't need business school to run a startup, you know.
But the tech industry, I feel like, is far more prides itself on being contrarian.
Yeah.
Stereotypical, but, like, I feel like that is generally the case of, like, we're doing things in a way that nobody else has ever done before. Whereas business school is seen as kind of the opposite of contrarian, because it gives you all these frameworks. You come out with all these 2x2s of how to think about things. And I think has a lot of friction with how people typically in the tech industry kind of pride themselves on their processes and how they like to do things. I don't see those two butting heads. Like, I think there's a lot of overlap in the stuff, like the frameworks and how we thought about business school. But if you apply frameworks too much, it gets too rigid and not flexible enough. So you have to take some of the contrarian ideas from... I think there is a world where they mesh really, really well together, and it's just figuring out what's right. But tech likes to pride itself on being contrarian, and business school is the opposite of that.
Yeah.
And I have a hard time with the haters saying, don't do it, it won't be good for your career.
Yeah. You made me think about, I think there's bits and pieces that are right for like different moments. For example, like I do think the more innovation within like startups, having less framework can be helpful. But then also when you start building teams and start managing people, for the most part, startups have no idea what they're doing.
Yes.
And like companies that have like HR like programs and also like leveling and promotions and how do you hire and fire people, like those are things that you learn in business school that like I think startups fumble through. And maybe they have more resources now because there's like slide decks and programs of incubators that teach you this type of stuff. But I feel like that is something that you really learn at scale at business school.
As you look at the journey, at like different pieces of the journey of different companies, there is a time for every one of those pieces. It's just a figuring out where are we right now and where should I pull from to fit the context.